Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of VAFA Tragics. Great to have your company for another week of VAFA Talk. We're joined by the panel as always, Brenton Mann and Nick Armstead. Good evening, how are you?
Andrew, how are you?
Great, thank you.
That's good.
Very excited to be here. We've got a special guest tonight. Make sure you stick around for that. Benny Goodman from the VAFA, the General Manager of Football and Umpiring, will join us right here at the desk.
I reckon he's got you in the gun too.
He probably does. He probably does. I often get a text from Benny post VAFA Tragics every week or post radio stints saying, Lenny, watch what you're saying.
Everyone's talking about Mayweather and McGregor. I'm looking forward to Leonard versus Benny Goodman tonight. I'll tell
One
you
of
what.
the great one-on-one battles of all time.
No, looking forward to it. Let's get straight into it with the plays of the week. I'm going to kick it off this week. It's unusual. I don't normally go with a play of the week, but I am going to go. Well, how could you go past this? Brunswick Street Oval, home of Fitzroy Football Club, a magnificent venue, arguably one of the best venues to watch football in Victoria, let alone in the VAFA. Now, streaker on the field. You know you've made it a competition. When you've got a streaker running on the field. Take a look at the vision, roll tape, Fitzroy versus Mazenod, late in the second quarter. Just a great effort. I think.
Given the conditions, the effort was fantastic.
Bravery personified by that man on a wintry Melbourne day to just shed the clothes and just stride across the field. Very brave.
Stay tuned for the tragic take of Brenton Mann later on. I'm sure that might feature as well when it comes to bravery. Brenty, who did you have for your play of the week?
Bit of a St John's theme and also Melbourne High theme.
There we
this
go.
week.
We've got 2 weeks in a row, St John's.
Surprise.
St John, it's milestone week this week, and St John's Corey Eli, 2011 Premiership player, played his 100th game on the weekend, and St John's got up against Whitefriars in a very important game. And also Melbourne High School Old Boys, Andrew Villani, 150th. They got up over Yarra Old Boys to keep their spot in the top 4.
Superb effort. Nick, who have you got for us?
Brunswick Knobs, Division 1, North Old Boys, went one game clear of St John's in the relegation zone via a surprising but emphatic 61-point win over Preston Bullants. Now, Preston are a top 4 team, and if you remember, Brunswick waited till about round 17 last year before they decided they wanted to avoid relegation, so they're getting in early and just a fantastic win. And they're now, as I said, a game clear of the relegation zone.
No doubt the news story of the week in William Buck Premier was Adam Andrews being replaced by the captain and, are they co-captains or captain and vice-captain?
Captain and vice.
Brendan Yetzi and Luke Paccioni taking over the reins of coaching Old Trinity on the weekend. They had the Tees right in the mix against Blues for a large period of the game, but Blues eventually running over the top of them. But Adam Andrews bids farewell to the coaching job after seeing the Tees on a now 6-game losing streak before he finished up.
Yes.
He did lead them to 3 grand finals, unable to get the ultimate glory with the Premier B runners-up, followed by a couple of William Buck Premier Section grand final losses. In a way, that those efforts to get there, I think, was contributed, and not winning one was contributed to the demise, I guess, of this Old Trinity side that they've gone this year.
Now, the hedge burners staring down the barrel of relegation. Now, this sweeping change may not be a bad thing over the summertime. Maybe go down to Prem B or hold on into Premier, but fresh ideas, fresh face and fresh voice.
Well, the idea is that they want to obviously stay up, and the fresh voice, like you said, Adam Andrews, life member, was the best and fairest winner too. Fantastic effort by him, but it'll be interesting to see now the return of the captain coach in the Premier section.
You have to say, given what Old Trinity were a club that brought players through from the school, the way that he developed those players, got them to play to the level that they played at without bringing in outside talent was just sensational, and they just were unable to get there on the day. Arguably, Yetzi plays in 2015 against St Bernard's. Maybe Old Trinity win the day. That 2014 or 2013 against Old Brighton in that grand final at Sports Cover, Old Brighton pinched it, 8 points. They were fantastic on the day, but Old Trinity unable to get there after being the dominant side through Premier B. So disappointing patch for Old Trinity to finish runner-up 3 times, but just lacking that premiership to really hold the group together and continue to keep the drive going for wanting to be successful.
And it's exactly what we're talking about. Like, do you want to go down to Premier B? No one wants to go down to Premier B, but like you said, there's a lot to be said about going down there and getting that win, getting that grand final, and then coming back up. But
hasn't been easy, as we've seen with Old Scotch. We thought they'd all go down and bounce straight back up there. Mind you, they're in the top 3 in Premier B. Let's move on to. You want to quickly touch on St Bede's potentially avoiding relegation with a massive win over Uni Blacks? Yeah,
I think they are now going to avoid relegation. They're a game and a half clear of both Trinity and Blacks via their 5-goal win. 17-point win on the weekend. 23-point, I'll get that right. They were 6 points down heading into the last, but nailed 4 unanswered goals to run out the match. Josh Cowan, now he's a favourite here because he was obviously on earlier this year. Kicked 3 goals, all beyond 50 metres with the wind, against the wind. It doesn't matter. Josh Cowan's left boot is fantastic. Now the Blacks, us, they're really, I know all teams are,
Yeah.
but they're struck down by injury more so than probably anyone, so it's going to take a good effort by them to get back up and to avoid relegation.
I'm still bullish about the Blacks avoiding the drop. I think it's going to be Trinity and Bo Morris. It'll be the two, but
Tigers
maybe with the coaching change it might help the teas out. On to Premier B. Before we take a break, let's quickly move on to there. The top three looks set there, Nick.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely it is. Old Scotch is in second, sorry. Brighton are first, and Berners are three, although you wouldn't know about it given Old Scotch's demolition job on St Berners on the weekend. 9 goals in the first quarter, and ended up winning by 78 points. But the one for us to discuss, I believe, is that fourth spot, and your team.
They're not my team.
Andrew Leonard, well, your old team back in the day.
Team.
I'm every team.
You had an allegiance to them.
But we spoke about this a few weeks ago. Old Carrier now, they've got a list that once it came together were always going to be very good, but now they're only one game outside the fall. They've got a very good percentage. Can they possibly make it in these last 5 rounds?
Well, the percentage is the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're a game behind Blues, the Jackers and Mazenod, but their percentage is stronger than I think all, one of them, maybe even all of them. So they're right within a shot. It's coming together for them. They've won 3 in a row now, which is a great result. Importantly, they've put a little bit of a distance between the relegation spots, and that's the most important thing here. I think whether they play finals or not, they're probably not up to the standard of the top 3 at this stage. So finals would be a bonus, I think, for the young group coming through to what they've done there, but avoiding relegation is the key. I want to flip to the bottom end of the ladder, though, because the results have meant that Peninsula game, 2 games out from safety at this stage, looking probably like it'll just be a short 1-year spell in Premier B for them at this stage. I mean, they can turn it around, of course. We know there's enough games left, but I don't see that happening. The question is who goes down with them. Parkdale Vultures, Fitzroy, and, Old Kerry's still not out of it necessarily.
Well, there's a good chance it might come down to round 17 between Parkdale and Fitzroy when those two meet at Brunswick Street Oval.
Round 16, Peninsula versus Parkdale's also shapes as a big game, because if Peninsula pinch that game,
Yes.
all of a sudden they're on 12 points as well, and if Fitzroy keep losing, then they're a chance to get out of it. Percentages are negligible difference as well. There's only 52 to 68%, and at that end of the spectrum, you can close that gap pretty quickly.
I wouldn't discount them pinching that game at the school either. They're a very sometimes formidable task down to the Peninsula School, and it's a tough one for Parkdale to avoid relegation.
Well, that's what cost Fitzroy. Fitzroy lost to Peninsula at the school 2 weeks ago, so that's something that they would have penciled in. It's really cost them and put them in this conversation.
We'll take a break on that note. We've got more Tragics coming up right after the break. Back in a moment.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to VAFA Tragics. As I mentioned before the break, we've got a very special guest joining us on the show tonight. After a much anticipated arrival on the show, Benny Goodman. Benny, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, many people around the VAFA obviously know you from your umpiring days. You played 100 games as well, is that right?
106, Andrew.
106
games.
games.
106 games.
Yeah.
Yes.
100. Now, after all this time, what keeps you coming back to the VAFA every year?
I just love the competition, love the VFA. It's my second family.
That's okay. They're the easy ones. Now, we got you on to talk all things football umpiring, which
Sure.
you look after. What's the biggest challenge for you guys, particularly in the officiating of the game now, in terms of the perception? Obviously, there's AFL accessible on TV all the time. We hear the rules. There's different rules in the VAFA, or different interpretations of rules in the VAFA to the AFL. But in terms of you guys, what comes up for you guys the most?
Really, there's 2. For me, personally, is dangerous tackles, sling tackles. I'm really concerned about that. We're fortunate when we hit winter because the grounds are a bit softer, but it shouldn't matter. It's about the action. And the second one is off-the-ball incidents. I'd really like to stamp that out. Unfortunately, a lot of our players follow the AFL, so they see a lot of these sort of jumper punches and things happening and little melee. So they're the things that bother me.
Do you think people focus too much on the outcome of a sling tackle, especially, instead of the actual action that it took to get to that?
Great
outcome?
question, Nick. But yes, correct. To be very honest, we give a directive to the umpires, and also we talk to the tribunal pre-season about what the umpires are going to be reporting on, and it's mainly about the action. Is that dangerous and could possibly hurt a player? The outcome we look at secondary, and if it goes to tribunal, then the tribunal can worry about whether it's an outcome is hurtful or not. But it's about the action, because we've got to try and stop. Preventative in our game is difficult, but we want to try and prevent dangerous tackles as much as humanly possible.
How many weeks a year does the tribunal sit?
They sit every
Well,
week.
How many have they missed this year? They missed. Been a
No,
tribunal week
no. To
this
be
year?
honest, when I took over tribunal in 2016, the first 2 weeks we had 5 reports and 7 reports. No tribunal. Everyone took the prescribed penalty. This year, unfortunately, the tribunal sat every week this year, and tribunals are always difficult, and reports are up this year from last year, which is disappointing.
What do you put that down to?
To be honest, my philosophy and thought process is that the game is a lot quicker by foot and by hand, and there's a lot more collisions, a lot more things happening, and therefore the result is sometimes the players react in certain ways, especially under pressure, and they transgress against the rules.
Are they playing on the edge more? Are they more aggressive, do you think?
Yeah, I think they are. I really think they are, and I think coaches themselves have got a challenge to try and harness it a bit rather than... I don't think coaches need to fire them up. Like when I played, we're looking for that rev. I think coaches don't need to do that. Players are on the edge all the time now.
Just on the tribunal, any danger of putting a heater downstairs when you've got to wait for the tribunal?
I'll take that under advisement, Brett.
Looking at some of these challenges here, we rolling some vision out. This is an old Melburnians player getting tackled, and the guy, he's slow to move up and get up here. But what's your take on this, Benny? My feeling is this should be paid in the back, where the guy is rolled over and then he sits on the back, and then you're not sitting there going, is that holding the ball or whatever it is? I think when you're sitting on the guy's back, that should be paid in the back.
The rule clearly says a push in the back is in the back. It doesn't say how that happens. So by the law and the rules, when a player falls on, pushes, lands on, climbs over on a player's back on the bottom, should be a free kick.
So does the VAFA to their umpires and then in turn write a memo to the club saying this is the way we're going to be interpreting this decision from now on?
That's a really good question. I must tell you, some years ago I did write, pardon me, I did write to clubs saying this is what we're going to focus on, it's what we're going to be doing. And to be honest, the clubs and the coaches didn't like it. They didn't want it.
Why not?
Well, mainly they just felt that either umpires weren't going to adhere to what the directive was, and that caused a bit of concern for them. And then it brought the umpire more into focus, which we didn't want to bring attention to the umpires. So I took that feedback. We tried it for 2 years, and the feedback was, no, we don't want
I suppose it meant your phone ran hotter on a Monday because it gave reason for the umpire to say,
Yeah,
you said you were going to do this,
did.
and the umpire didn't do this.
Well, the worst thing you can do is then go and say you're going to do something, and through the circumstances you make a decision on the spot and you don't do it, then you're open for criticism, and that's what's going to happen.
On that, do you believe there's too much grey area in the officiating of the game?
Of course there is. The rules are very grey.
Yeah.
There's no such thing, and I mean, to be honest, if I said to you, where does your back start and finish, and where does your side, which is what I do when I do the level 1 accreditation, it's really hard to determine. And the other quick one I'll throw in there is holding the ball.
Yeah.
If you have a look at the law book, it says a reasonable time should be granted to give the player with the ball. What is a reasonable time?
Yeah.
Your reasonable time between us all would be different.
Yeah.
So that's what needs to cap in, and that's the rule. I think sometimes it's written that way deliberately because it gets the crowd in, gets everyone going. It's open to interpretation.
It's a crowd free kick sometimes. For sure.
If it was so much black and white, would our game be so interesting? I'm not so sure.
Number of umpires on the field. We've trialled 3 umpires a few times. Where's that heading? Are we going to stick with 2 for the best part and 3 on occasions?
If we had the numbers, we'd have 3 umpires across most of certainly our top 3 sections, and you will find that over the last 5 years, we've had 3 field umpires in all the finals from Premier B, Premier C and Div 1. Yep. And then we fall away because of numbers to be able to do that. But throughout the finals, the 3 umpire system will be involved.
How are we going for numbers? With the introduction of women's football, obviously there's a lot more games every weekend at really different times, I might say. How are we going for numbers?
Numbers are good. Numbers are really good. The problem we have is just like a club. We have averaged 35 to 40 field umpires unavailable every week. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had 54 field umpires unavailable.
Well, they all got on holiday to Bali.
Well,
Proving the
we're no different. We're not
people in glass houses.
Yeah.
I've been to Bali.
We're not immune from it. Similar to clubs where we have injuries, but umpires, players, they go away a lot more these days. School holiday, we've got a younger demographic within our group as well. So parents say to the kids on the weekend, we're going away, kids unavailable. So that's our issue that we face. Come finals time, it's just before finals, we'll have too many.
Just on the
Everyone
talent
puts
pool,
their hand up.
the VAFA is a genuine talent pool for AFL clubs now.
Yes, it is.
In regards to umpires, is the umpires see it as a genuine pathway to the higher grade?
Absolutely, and I'll brag a bit here on behalf of the VAFA. We have the highest number of umpires that have gone across to the VFL and the AFL in the last 20 years. We currently have 8 field umpires that have come through the VFA umpiring AFL football today.
Fantastic.
I want to talk about women's footy. Obviously, massive growth and all that sort of thing. Nick mentioned the different fixturing times. A little proposal, I think, I don't can't remember.
It was last week.
Yep.
Let's play women's football midweek. So if you think of, in terms of ground rationalisation, how would the VFA see if we had a dedicated Wednesday night comp for William Buck Premier Women's, for example?
I'm open to it. Not a problem. What we need to make sure is the ground is suitable to play and the lights are good enough to play. The biggest issue you probably have will be councils or schools, depending on the ground where it is, and they're the face. But we need to be more flexible than we've ever been before. Friday night football, I think, has always been a winner. We've now had a few games on a Saturday night. We've got twilight Saturdays, and we've also played where we had some games that were unable to be played for reasons. We have played on a Tuesday night and a Wednesday night. And to be honest, the bonus of that, it gives our umpiring group an opportunity to go and watch these umpires and the younger ones to learn from the game as well.
Do you get many reports in women's football?
I've had one this year, touch wood, no more. I've had one this year, don't want any more.
So we don't necessarily need cameras for that reason, but is there a chance that we'll see vision of women's games as part of the package?
Why not? I think that'd be great. Certainly at a women's premier level, I would see no reason why they shouldn't be part of the video.
And what about from Division 1 down to Division 4? Where are we at with getting those games covered? A lot of clubs film their own games now, but if we had a blanket rule, everyone gets filmed.
Yeah, the problem will be, of course, like the divisional clubs, a lot of the lower clubs, it's always a financial burden for them, and a lot of the clubs struggle because as soon as you say it's going to be compulsory video, well, the clubs have got to contribute. Someone's got to pay for that, so therefore the clubs have got to contribute. So it's a difficult one. I'd love to see it, but whether it'll come in the short term, I'm not too sure. Time will tell.
In terms of club sustainability, we've had St Francis Xavier drop down and then back up into Division and the senior side. They're struggling at the moment in Division 4. How are we going with Division 4?
Well, Box Hill North were also the same. They played finals in 2016, and then in the off-season, the president was resigned, the coach resigned, a lot of their players were 30 and over resigned. All of a sudden, they're down to one team. And for their viability just to stay afloat as a club, then we had to put them in Club 18. And they're doing really well. I think they've only lost one game at the moment so far. But they still think they need an extra year. Even if they won the flag, they'd still like to stay down in 2018, which I think is important for them to get that sustainability going and build up again. Our biggest problem was always the fringe clubs, especially way out in the suburbs like Point Cook. Point Cook, I met with the president some 6, 7, 8 weeks ago. He flagged to me that they were thinking of maybe leaving the VFA and they were going to have an internal voting system. All the players, staff, officials, etc. We're going to have a big meeting and decide, is it right for them to stay in the VFA or should they look at maybe going local? Their biggest issue is they've got about 20 junior teams in the WRFL. They've got a lot of competition around that area, over Point Cook area, with clubs fighting for the same sort of player. The one thing that I've spoken to them about, against all the odds like that, they were runners-up in the Div 4 Grand Final last year to Westbourne, which is a great effort, and they're doing reasonably well this year. Not great, but reasonable. And if they can sustain that, then I believe that it's sustainable for them to stay in the VFA. Whether they really want to stay, or whether the players and that dictate where they go, again, time will tell.
So if they leave, we've obviously got to even up Division 3, but are we going to focus again on trying to even up Division 4 as well? I know that we had the 10-team structure until Box Hill North pulled out late, obviously. Is that what we're aiming for?
Ideally, we'd like to have 10 teams in every section. You know, that's the perfect scenario, and if we can get that, because it makes it even draw. We've got 18 rounds, no buys, no one misses.
So a couple of years ago, I think the VFA was at 74 senior clubs, and it's now back to 70, and possibly with Point Cook maybe departing, with other clubs not necessarily fighting between Club 18 and senior footy.
Yep.
We could be below 70 clubs for the first time in a long time. So
yeah,
is 70 the cap? So if new clubs wanted to join the competition, would we not allow it now that you're saying 10 teams is...
No, absolutely not. We'd entertain it. Absolutely. You know, if any club wants to join the VFA. And all that information and the proposal goes to the board, and our footy growth subcommittee looks at that as well. So we've got a pretty strong board and a pretty strong strategic plan about the growth of our competition, and that's really important. And we'd look at it for sure. With
regards to women's football, what about standalone women's clubs? Is that something we'd entertain in the near future?
Interesting you say that, because the strategic plan and the board rule, if you like, has always been that, you know, you've got to have a club within the VFA to enter a team. So Now, with the women's competition, will we move away from that? It's a strong possibility. But again, that's
a lot of women's female schools
exactly
that could build their own clubs.
The issue will be how much do we want to grow as well with the clubs and our players, because when I spoke to Shona some weeks ago, there's already between 12 and 15 clubs looking to enter a women's team in 2018. Now that could easily grow to 20. So if we can go from 40 to 60, well then the logistics of that, of how that's going to work, sounds great for our competition and no doubt vibrant for the women's competition, but where do we go? How do we help them with grounds? How do we help them with officials and volunteers? And you know, they're the issues that we hear about day in, day out. You talk about club sustainability. One of the things that I've already spoken to Brett Connell about is making sure that we speak to all our clubs as much as humanly possible, off-season as well as in-season, to make sure that they are financial, that they're able to still recruit, they're able to retain their players, and what do they need from the VAFA to help them sustain and be a good club within the VAFA?
Just with the women's, the AFLW chose not to expand next year. They're going to wait till 2019. Could the competition outgrow itself? Could you grow too quickly, and that would be a major problem?
Well, it's possible. Yeah. There's no doubt it's possible, given what we've already heard from the clubs about growing women's football. I was at North Brunswick on Saturday. Now, North Brunswick have been a two-team club for ever and a day.
Yep.
They're now talking about juniors and a women's team going forward. Now, to hear that, which you wouldn't have heard of going in the past, it speaks volumes for the competition and the women's competition in itself, which is vibrant.
By the way?
North Brunswick.
North Brunswick.
Sorry.
Quickly, a final one from me. Live scores. The new we've gone with a different app this year. Fair to say I'm not happy with it. I think no quarter times, no telling what quarter you're in, particularly late in the half time. You don't know if it's half time yet. Also, there's nothing to say what minute of the game we're at, which is important as well.
Now, Andrew,
yes.
I'm really disappointed. I was looking forward to a bit of a challenge tonight, and unfortunately, I can only agree with you. This is my most disappointing part about this. I was looking forward to going head-to-head with you, but not once have you thrown up a curly one to me. Come on, you guys have got to be better than this. The live scores is disappointing. There's no doubt about it, and through Sports 2G, we'll be visiting that. It's the first time we've tried a different provider, and at the end of the season, we're doing a review and looking at it again.
Fair enough, Benny. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We've really enjoyed having you on. Enjoy the footy this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, I think. But can I just mention, I just want to, while I've got the opportunity, I really want to, and I know you would have spoken about our rep program, and especially our seniors through Stewie Powell and Mick Overman and all the boys, and even David Gately and his team in under-19s, 4 points down. But to win so well against Vic Country, it was great.
Good on you, Benny. Brian Benny Goodman, the GM of football and umpiring at the VAFA, joining us at the desk here at the Tragics. We'll take a break, come back and wrap up the show right after this.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
And welcome back to the Tragics. It's been a big show. It's been a long one. Hope you've stuck with us right throughout the show. We're going to finish it up there, guys. Which game are you looking forward to seeing most this weekend?
Oh, that's talk about a curly one. I can't say I've looked at the fixture, everyone's fixture.
We're well prepared.
Yeah, really well prepared.
Looking forward to getting to the footy on the weekend. Let's hope there's a few more
Cannot
streakers.
wait.
Can we wish for more streakers?
Yes, we can.
More
I mean,
streakers.
that's entertainment.
That is entertainment.
Stick around for Brenty's tragic take right after this. We'll see you next week on the Tragics.
Now, bravery is a word that gets thrown around football circles far too often for mine. But there's also, you got Dermot Brereton in the 1989 Grand Final, Nick Riewoldt drifting back with the flight countlessly in his career, and Jonathan Brown as well. But bravery was a Brunswick Street Oval on the weekend. Fitzroy versus Mazanot. This young man, in freezing Melbourne conditions, took it upon himself to derobe and show off his epidermis, and took a stride down Brunswick Street Oval. It was fantastic. It ranks up there with Helen D'Amico, the Irish backpacker that Andrew Simons knocked over, and of course the big streaker at State of Origin. I dip my lid to you, sir, for that fantastic feat of bravery on the weekend.